My name is Christina C. Jones, and I have been writing romance novels, publishing romance novels rather, for almost 10 years at this point. In those 10 years, I have written more than 80 different books, and each of those books has a different cover. Some of them have had multiple covers over the years. Every single one of those covers is one that I designed myself. And let me tell you something. Even if you don't like the work, the words that are within the pages of those books, you cannot front. You can't front like every single one of those covers doesn't give. That's what you can't do, because they do give, every single one. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because I want you to understand going into this video that I know what I'm talking about. I see people across all these different social media apps every day presenting themselves as experts in this field or that field. Lots of pudding, no proof. If you go looking for what makes them an expert in whatever field, there's not a lot to back it up. You see this? This is pudding. You see these? Pudding. This right here? These? Pudding. More pudding. More pudding. And I haven't even showed you any of my covers yet. All of that said, I'm going to get this point out of the way up front. I am not a working graphic designer anymore. This is not me being mean. I just simply do not have the capacity. And it's okay, because I am going to do my very best to teach you what you need to know so that you don't need me. You can do this yourself. I have years and years of experience. Even before I started writing and publishing and creating book covers, I was a graphic designer for years before that. And so I'm bringing years and years and years of research, practice, experience, all of that. And so don't feel discouraged or anything like that if the first thing that you create, or even the first 15 things you create, don't necessarily look like something that you want to show to the public. The purpose of this is to give you the tools that you might need to start practicing and keep practicing until you get to a point that you can create something that you are proud to put your name on and show to other people. So you want to create a great book cover. You are going to have to start with a great image. If you can't find a great image, which is absolutely possible and honestly probable, you're going to have to be willing to get a little creative with a good image. But we're not going lower than good. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to head to a stock photo site, or if you got it like that, you can commission a custom shoot. But for the most part, most of us are going to a stock photo site. I have talked before about lots of different resources for indie authors in a different video. If I remember, I'll tag it. But just to do like a little quick update on where you can go to istockphoto.com. You can go to Deposit Photos. I know a lot of people use Unsplash as a free photo resource, and I know that that's what it's for. I know that those models and artists have signed releases and all of that, but I come from like the old school internet where you made sure that you had like the exact proper rights and everything like that. I like paying for rights. And so I don't gravitate to Unsplash, but I'm not saying that you shouldn't, just that I don't. But it is absolutely a resource that you can utilize. Once you get to wherever you're going, you're going to enter your search terms, look for African American, not necessarily Black, if you're looking for Black people. But Black often will get you people in Black clothes, Black backgrounds. So you want to have that African American or African tag that is going to help you kind of weed out what you're really looking for. If you're looking for Black people. Now, the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to spend a few minutes looking at the most recent. You're going to filter your images. Look for the most recent, not necessarily the most relevant. Now, this could be fruitless, but the reason I'm telling you to look at most recent is because you want to look for something you've never seen before, or look for something that you haven't seen very often. A big frustration among us indie authors is when new images hit the scene. It's something hot, it's something, it's a new shoot, and then everybody uses the same photos. And so you have a lot of book covers that end up looking alike because the photos are used in the, exact same photos, used in the exact same way, and there's a lot of, it's just not fun. So look for something that you haven't seen a lot. And even if you have seen it a lot, if you just love a particular image, you love a particular model, they are just a perfect fit for the character that you're wanting to portray, think about using that image in a way that you haven't seen it used before. Get creative. Turn it upside down, turn it sideways, move it over to the side, focus on just one certain little area. Anything that you can do to give your own little spin on that image so that it's not looking like every other single cover that uses that image. The second thing you are going to need is a cohesive color palette. Color has rules, and yes, we are doing everything ourselves. We're bending the rules. We're going wild. We're going crazy. But there's colors that look good together, and there's colors that don't. Look at a color wheel. Look at a color wheel, babe. And it's not just about choosing colors that you think look good together or choosing your favorite colors. Color can evoke certain emotion. You're writing, a dark erotica. You may want to use deep blacks, reds, deep blues, purples, stuff like that. But if you're writing something that's, conversely, you're writing something that's very warm, very happy, very light in tone, you might want to use very warm oranges, peaches, neutrals, something that really gives that kind of artsy sort of vibe. If you're writing a rom-com, you might be looking at very bright, very saturated colors to convey that happy, laughing, comical sort of vibe. But it's definitely something that you have to consider. Another thing to consider when choosing your color palette that you're going to do for your cover, for your promo, everything, because you want everything to be cohesive and go together. That color dropper tool, that little eyedropper tool on your display ribbon, that is your best friend because you can pull colors from your image. Of course, that color on your font or whatever is going to look good on your cover because it's already in the image that you're using. And so it's already there. So of course it works. Speaking of your fonts, you need to learn what kerning is. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to look it up. I lied. I am going to tell you. Kerning is basically the amount of space between your letters on certain fonts. Even Canva, which, that may be your tool of choice, there's a place where you can adjust the amount of space that's between your letters so that everything flows together properly, so that your letters are not sitting jumbled up on top of each other, or so that they're not too far apart. You need to be choosing clear, legible typography that also fits the vibe of your project. There are 5 main types of fonts that you might choose for your project. Sans serif means without serifs. Those are like the little lines that are at the, at the ends of every little part of the letter. Sans serif fonts are very clean looking, very clean, very modern. Serif fonts have the serif at the end. Think Times New Roman, where you have those little tails at the ends of every stick out point on your font. Very classic. Then you have script, which gives very elegant, very, I want to use the word stuffy, and I kind of stand by the word stuffy, but there's ways that it can be used and look good in certain contexts on certain covers. And then you have handwritten font. The handwritten fonts, the cursive fonts, sexy. And then you have display fonts, or the play fonts is what I like to call them. Those are the fonts that are very much in a theme, very much childish. Well, let me not call them childish. There is a time and a place for display fonts. For the vast majority of us, it is not on your book cover if you're writing a romance novel. I am absolutely open to being proven wrong about that, but I don't think that I will. Okay, so we got a great image. We've chosen a great color palette. We've chosen a good font that we are going to be able to read, probably 2 different fonts that we're going to use to accent and play off of each other. What else do we need? We need layers. We need color. We need texture. We need brushes. We need something that is just going to pull everything together. But this is very, very easy to overdo. It's so easy to overdo. You don't want to build on so many layers, so much texture, so many patterns, and all of that you lose the beauty of your image, or your font and all of that gets lost because there's so much going on. You want texture, but not busyness. You want less. Less is more. You want depth, not blah. Do not be afraid to change your covers to fit current cover conventions. Now, I talked about this a couple videos ago where I was talking about the importance of your backlist, repackaging. This fits within repackaging. I have recently been revisiting a lot of my covers, a lot of my older covers, because for one, I just don't like them anymore. For two, they look old-fashioned to me now because those are covers from 7-8 years ago, possibly older, possibly not that old, but still, my taste personally as the artist, as the writer, have changed, and also the different different conventions for what readers want their romance novel covers to look like have changed. And if I want to continue to build my audience, I want to continue to pick up new readers, I have to be willing to adapt. What worked for a reader 10 years ago may not work for readers who are coming to you now and looking for something to pick up. They might see that cover and say, that's not really for me, even though it actually might really be for them. You want to give your readers every reason to pick your book up and no reasons not to. You don't want an ugly or outdated cover to be the reason that they don't. But while you're doing that, while you're repackaging or while you're packaging for the first time, if you are writing series, something I want you to remember is that your covers need to be cohesive. It should be very clear that these covers go together. They should look like sisters and brothers. And I don't mean mama's baby, daddy's maybe. I mean all from the same parents. You don't need to be changing fonts across covers or anything like that. Once your design is set with book 1, that same design, that's book 2. That very same design is book 3. Now, if you want to redesign everything, you get to book 3 for you decided that you don't like it anymore, that's fine. You need to redesign them all so that it is cohesive, so that when readers are looking for your work, it is abundantly clear, okay, these books go together. And last but not least, be original. Be original. Now, I'm going to be very transparent here in that I hate seeing authors talking about, you hoes always copying somebody and all of that. Girl, go write a book, please. But with that said, I understand where that feeling comes from because it is very frustrating and also disheartening to have put, you know, all your passion, all your energy into designing something, and you're excited about it, and then 2 weeks, a month, or sometimes not even that far later, you see someone has replicated everything about what you've done, just with a different image, sometimes with a not that different image. It's very frustrating. Please don't do that to people. It's important to gather inspiration from what you see around you. It's important to do your research on what kind of covers work for what kinds of books. That is absolutely important. You should be looking at other book covers. You should be looking at what other authors are doing. It's just good business. And you should not allow yourself to get paralyzed and not do anything for fear of she copying me. Because if you know you're not copying, you're fine. Trust me, you're fine. But I have seen stuff that is a little too coincidental to not be copying. And I just want you to be mindful that if you find yourself hunting down all the exact fonts, hunting down, okay, what kind of texture was this that was used? Hunting down, you know, okay, I want an image, I'm going to find the same photo shoot, or different things like that. That is when you get into doing too much. And that is when you need to take a step back, stop, think about it, and probably choose a different path. Each of us has our own unique flavor, and you really need to lean into that. Again, that's not to say that you should not gather inspiration from what you see people doing around you or from what you like to see. Absolutely gather from that, but you need to be implementing in a way that looks like you. You need to be implementing in a way that pulls your voice, that pulls your style, that pulls your passion out and represents your work, not something that looks like it could be a carbon copy of what someone else has done. So with that said, let me show you some examples. So I feel like these are a really great example of what I was talking about when it came to color, in terms of what feeling certain colors are going to convey. When you look at these, it looks like old school rom-com movie posters. It gives you bright, it's giving you colorful, it's giving you happy, because that is exactly the vibe of these books. Now, taking to another point, these are not the covers of these books anymore. These are the covers of these books now. You see how things have changed from one to the next. Illustrated covers are really in right now. I've definitely heard from readers who prefer these, and I understand why readers would prefer these. But this is what new readers are looking for. And if I want to get in front of new readers, I have to sometimes follow the trends, and I just love these. I actually commissioned an artist for these, Shanika Johnson. She did an amazing job with the images, with the illustrations that these covers are based on. But in digging into it, we have Jacqueline and Kaden. I sent her this cover so that she could see what these characters look like. And if you see, when I get in close, you see the similarities. You see the earrings, the color blue. You see Kaden with his little F-boy haircut and his black eye. If you've read that book, you know the significance of that. But if you're deciding to go into repackaging, this is your opportunity to really have fun and pull out certain elements of the books that you may not have necessarily been able to capture on the cover before. You can go back and you can do that now. Okay, remember I talked about not using display fonts? This book cover has a display font on it. That possession, the word that's the font that the word possession is in, that is a display font. And you see how dated it looks already, even though this book is only like 5 years old. And so when we went back to come back to the Connecticut King series, we decided that it was time for a repackage on those books, and we went with this. These fonts are much more modern, much more timeless than these fonts. Actually, both of these are display fonts. The Determining too. That is another display font. They're very specialized fonts. And even though, yes, it fits the theme, it's a football romance, it fits the theme, it gets dated really, really quick. And you run into not every word looks good in these fonts. Which is something that you're going to need to consider when you're thinking about all your promo materials and all of that. You're going to be using these fonts over and over. You want something that is going to, most words are going to look good in, and they're easy to find again later. If something happens, these fonts or something similar, something adjacent, really easy to find. Really easy to find. These, not so much. I'm going to show you another repackage. This one was only a semi repackage of this series, but so this is the original cover of this book. I still love this cover. Nothing wrong with it. There's the spine. There's the back. I'm going to show you the updated version of this exact same book with better formatting and better design. For one, I switched from the glossy finish to the matte finish. You see how this one does not have the series title on it? This one does. We've got the series title on there now. Also, when we look at the spine of this book, we've got the book title, we've got the number in the series that it is, and then my name. Everything is in a nice clear font, easy to know exactly what you're picking up when you're looking at it on a bookshelf. And then we go to the back. We've got a nice little, a nice little design element up here with some of the wording from the blurb in a script font, but everything is just laid out much better, much more professionally, and it looks good with the other books. It looks good with the other, well, let me stack them up properly. But it looks good with the other books in the series. Everything looks nice. Everything looks cohesive. This is important. Back when this book was published, when I did this, the formatting in this is awful. The formatting in it is awful because I barely knew what I was doing. Now I know better about what I'm doing, and so I went back and I fixed it, and now it looks so much more professional. I'm proud to, to make these available for readers to pick up. I'm proud for people to say that these are on their shelves, and I'm proud to send them to bookstores who might want them. One more repackage to show you, but you're going to have to bear with me because I don't have a physical copy of I have a physical copy of the new version, but not of the old version, but I have another title from the same series of the old version. So just bear with me. So this is my Serendipitous Love series. And these are just the couple that I have from the series. This is actually the second repackaging that these books have gone through. Just over the years, wanting something different, etc., etc., etc. But one thing that I have never really liked about these covers, this iteration or the iteration before that, is that there's no people on the covers. But I'm very much writing about people, and I'm very much writing about Black people, and I am proud to be writing about Black people. So why are they not on this cover? Well, let me show you how I fix that. This is the first book in that series, and as you can see, there are two different versions of the cover because these are the fan edition covers. Eventually there will be one style chosen, and that will be the version that is available even if you don't order directly through me. But for now, we have the fan editions, and we have a version that has the heroine on it. The heroine is a florist, and you see her here. She is preparing flowers, and that wraps all the way around to the back of the book. And then the hero owns the coffee shop, and we see a representation of him on the front. We see, you see the coffee shop in the background. And again, we wrap around all the way to the back. Now, the whole series has undergone the repackage. I just don't have the others in hand quite yet. But when you look at these, it's a 6-book series. You'll have the number on the side so you know exactly what you're looking for, so you know exactly what you're looking at when you see them. And as you can see, we just went with CCJ because I wanted to get a nice full size on the title. And these books, this series has long titles. Didn't have enough room to put my name unless I wanted to make things a lot smaller, and I didn't want to do that. And so, all right, let's talk about a couple that are not repackages. I'm gonna start with one where I bugged the system a little bit. So in looking at this, I'm actually skirting the line on legibility. I really am, but I think because we did it in white, so it pops away from the really vibrant photo behind it. And we also have this little bit of a texture effect on the wording, like this little bit of glitch effect. I don't know how well it comes across on camera. It comes across really good in person, but it's just enough, I hate a shadow on a font. I hate a shadow effect on a font. Don't do that unless you're gonna do it like this. But no, like a very, very, very subtle version of a shadow effect on a font. It's actually not a shadow effect. It's actually the title doubled, and I just scooted it so that you could just barely see it a little bit. Is what I did with that. There is a shadow around the font. But it's a very blurred shadow, just enough to make the text pop out from the color behind it. It's not heavy, it is subtle, just enough to make the color pop out from what's behind it. And then not only that, we have a good image. This is actually multiple images. Let me tell you something interesting that you may not know. These two men on these covers, it's the same man. It's the same man. You can kind of see it. You can kind of see it a little bit there. It's the same man on the cover. Different angle. Different angle makes the difference. Use your angles. These two people are not even in the same picture. These are two different pictures. Get creative. Get creative. And this wraps around because as y'all can tell from everything I've shown you, I love a good wraparound. But get creative, play with colors. Neither of these pictures were neon pink and orange and blue when I downloaded them, but you play with the colors to present the vibe that you're looking for. Prior affair. This one actually had a custom shoot. But I want to show you how using even this super clean font, even this very simple font, we did something interesting with it. Prior, and then you flip it over and you get affair. And so you have something interesting to look at no matter what angle you are looking at this cover from. Lots of texture there, even though this is very simple. It's just as a person and a person, you can't even really see their faces, but you've got lots of texture, you've got color variation, gradients to give you some difference. There's so many different ways that you can play with one image and make them look like something completely new, make them look like something just completely else and completely other than what you are first presented with. And so that's all for my spiel about some of the elements of a great book cover, along with some examples of what I believe great book cover design looks like. Please don't think that I'm shallow for using myself for all of the examples. I think I can make a good book cover. I just believe that about myself, and no one is going to tell me otherwise. But anyway, if you have any type of questions or anything like that about the design of a book cover, or honestly any other questions about the writing or publishing process, please feel free to drop them below, because this is part of my passion. I love talking about writing, I love talking about publishing, and I love to share the knowledge that I have with other people. And so if you have anything that you have not been able to find, anything that you've been looking for and haven't been able to get answers to, please feel free to drop that question, and I will either answer the question, make a video about it, or point you to a video that I've already made about it, assuming that I have an answer for whatever your question is. But all right, that's all. This video is super long, and yeah. All right,